I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about questions to ask before commitment.
Grab your notebooks.
This is important. This is really important because we don't really think about important things when we start to date somebody. We just start spending time with them and then we let chemistry take over. Then you wind up with a devastated, broken heart.
That's exactly right. Chemistry takes over and the brain stops. Mm-hmm.
And I recently had somebody tell me, my gut was telling me no. I ignored these red flags. We started spending more time together. And then, obviously they're devastated and brokenhearted.
Sure.
So you have to really think about the person that you're choosing to get into a relationship with, not just are you attracted to them, because if you don't, you're going to get hurt. So Margaret's got a bunch of really good questions for you to think about.
Yes. These are questions, compliments of a psychologist named Gary Lewandowski. And we have taken this gentleman's thoughts very kindly before today. So we thank him again for some really good stuff. And he says, I consulted the existing research to ground each question in the science of what contributes to a healthy relationship. Note that this isn't about helping you pick the best Tinder date, hook up for a short-term fling, or do any of those other things. These questions focus on what matters for serious, long-term, sustained love. Okay? And he was saying, anybody could debate, are all of these important? I mean, do you need to have all of them? But he just says, you can figure that out the best way you can.
Even just being aware that you should ask these
Absolutely.
questions can make a big difference.
And when listening to the questions, you will likely have some rose-colored glasses. So make sure that you pay attention and really think about them.
And on top of that, if you really want to go deep, you might want to think about what would somebody think or say if they were asked these questions about you in the relationship. And you can really take a look and reflect on that. Like, ooh, I don't know, I like these answers.
Yeah.
And change those things about yourself.
Right. All right. Number 1. Does your partner make you a better person? And do you do the same for them? Now, what might that mean in practical terms? Does your partner do better at school, at their job, because they have your encouragement? Does that work as well for you? If you have a partner who might be into a cause, who got you interested in it, etc. I do remember a hopeful article that we did way back, maybe a couple of years ago, where it was a study that said that one of the things that keeps people in long-term relationships is that sense of being a better person with your partner, okay? That they help you become a good person, all right? So that alone ought to keep you thinking for a while. Number 2, are you and your partner both comfortable with sharing feelings, relying on each other, being close, and able to avoid worrying about the other person leaving? In other words, does one of you have an abandonment fear? And to what extent is that getting in your way? Are you both comfortable with sharing feelings? Oftentimes we hear from one partner that, they do all that stuff and their partner doesn't like to talk about or share feelings. So can you both share feelings? Be reliant on each other. And that means, you can, if you have some dependency issues, you can get scared about that. I don't want to rely on you for anything. And being close.
And you might hear your partner even say, "Oh, I don't have feelings."
Yes, oftentimes.
If you hear them say that, then
Yes, you do. You just haven't found them yet. You were issued a whole set at birth. Okay, are you comfortable with being close and able to avoid worrying that the other person might leave you? And that's profound. Okay? How many people do we come across who have abandonment fears? You know, huge numbers. And many, many of us do.
Yep.
Number 3. Do you and your partner accept each other for who you are without trying to change each other? That's huge. Okay?
Yep. It can be frustrating if you're with a partner that doesn't listen or doesn't make a real effort to meet your needs.
Right? Can be very difficult.
Because you want them so desperately to change that behavior and meet
Yeah.
those needs.
and you might go into it thinking, "Oh, they'll change. Oh, things will be different later on." But you are seeing these behaviors that are red flags and are your deal breakers. So you might get into it with that expectation.
Yeah, and the conventional wisdom, which is absolutely correct, says do not get into a committed relationship with someone expecting them to change. You have to be ready to be with what you see.
Yeah.
Okay? Some people will change and grow, some people will not. Number 4, when disagreements arise, do you and your partner communicate respectfully and without contempt or negativity?
Everybody's like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, like
Listen to that one.
that happens. Listen, you fool, I've told you to take out the rubbish 400 times and you still haven't done it. What's so hard about that? No, I'm not a nag. Okay? So
that's a tough one, Margaret.
it is a tough one, and when you really get into something pretty major, you can get very angry and it's hard to be respectful.
Yep.
Okay? And the minute you hear you always and you never, you're really in it. You never take out the trash. How many times do I have to tell you?
Yeah. It's going to get exhausting.
Yes. So that's important. If you fight, can you do it without being really disrespectful or contemptuous of each other? All right? And, for any relationship to last, you have to be able to fight and get over it. Otherwise, no relationship would last longer than 20 minutes. It's okay to get angry at the people you love and get over it. Okay? If you don't like confrontation, that can be another issue because there are some people who walk out of the room and hide for 3 days. Okay? So that's not real helpful either. And there are many people who will quickly tell you, "I don't like confrontation." Well, none of us does. But it has to happen sometimes. Number 5. Do you and your partner share decision-making, power, and influence in the relationship? I remember hearing a group of people talk about that one time, and my jaw was on the floor. Several of them were saying, "Well, I don't let him make any decisions about buying anything. He's just not practical enough." Somebody else said, "My husband never asks me about anything he wants to buy. He just buys it and brings it home." And I remember being absolutely shocked by that.
I remember there was a couple cases that we had years ago where the guy went out and bought like a motorcycle. Remember that
Yes,
one?
I do.
Or spent all kinds of money with it, and
Right.
he's just like, "I'm just going to spend it."
I'm just going to spend it, yeah. Well, you're not going to get a big welcome home, buddy.
Another situation that I can think of is long distance relationships.
Oh, yes.
Of who decides who's going to move where eventually to be
Yeah.
in the same town.
Right.
I think that could be another big decision.
Oh, sure. But, power and influence sharing is huge. And if you talk about domestic violence for any length of time, this issue comes up, that one person has all the power and the other has none. Okay. And I heard about a case the other day where the man was furious at the woman for not working, but she had 2 kids, under 5 that she was trying to take care of 24/7. And he was trying to say she was freeloading off him because she didn't work.
Were they his kids?
Yes, they were. And I wanted to tell her to let him stay home with them for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And you go to work, honey, it would be much better than this. So I don't think they had a brilliant future ahead of them. So decision-making and sharing power and influence is huge. Is your partner your best friend, and are you theirs? What does that really mean? Is your partner your best friend? What do you think, guys?
Well, To be somebody's best friend, it means that you're counting on them for a lot of things and being able to have fun with them and enjoy life with them and trust them. I mean, Margaret, one of the big things is that how many people date, they don't even like the person.
Right.
Right?
True.
That they don't even like them
They
as
don't
a
even like
person.
them,
Like if
right.
they weren't dating, they wouldn't even like each other.
Yeah,
Yep.
for me, it's about that foundational respect for one another.
Yeah.
And I think this is actually a huge theme in Gottman's work, is to be a friend of your partner, to have that foundational respect. I find that a lot of times in relationships, people treat their partner as if they would never treat a friend.
Right.
And so then
Oh,
that
absolutely.
dynamic is at play there.
Yeah. And your partner has to be your best friend. And, you have things in common with friends. You need to have things in common with your partner. One of my favorite questions is, who is the first person you want to tell good news to, or that something awful happened to you? Okay? But it's also saying that you have to have more in common with your partner than just your sexual attraction.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You have to enjoy doing some things together. Do you and your partner think more in terms of we and us, or you and I?
Yeah.
I think this also goes back to the decision making.
Yes.
And on a smaller scale, if you're just getting to know somebody, you might think, well, we're not really making decisions. We're really not at that point. But you have to think that decision making is so integral to our daily lives. We decide what to eat. We decide when we walk out the door. We decide many things together. So even looking at it from a smaller scale.
Yeah. And if your partner is going to buy a car, would you want them to discuss it with you first? Yeah. Or a new stove, or any big purchase like that. If either of you was going to make one, wouldn't you consult your partner?
Yeah.
Would you, this is a big one, would you and your partner trust each other with the passwords to social media and bank accounts?
This is a big one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was thinking just this week how many breakups are due to social media.
Many, many, many.
Yep.
Yeah. Many, many, many.
Yeah, certainly. And, as far as the bank accounts, are you spending money secretly
Yeah.
or hiding it? Or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, who knows what's going on there?
You might be saving it up because you want to leave me.
Well, some people do that.
I know they do.
Yeah.
And couples who share credit cards can see shady purchases on the statement.
Or, I mean, how many times have you heard of somebody maxing out your credit card and then they leave you?
Yeah.
Right? And now you have to pay because you're married and now all that bad credit is on you. I've seen that. Yeah.
There are forms of domestic violence that are called economic abuse. I mean, you really can abuse your partner economically by withholding money from them, making them beg for it, spending their money without telling them. There are all kinds of things can go on. Can you say more about breaking up over social media?
Yeah, I was just thinking there's many fights that can happen around who likes whose post, how you're talking and interacting with other people on social media, what you post, if you're able to publicly post that you're in a relationship or not. Tagging, I see that come up a lot too, of, they untagged themselves from an image. That must mean that they don't want to publicly say that we're together. And so there's many different messages that can be sent to your partner just through how you behave on social media. So you have to be respectful of how they view it and how you view it. Of course, you want to be able to openly talk about it.
Communicating with a lot of people is a much easier thing to do these days. You can talk to people around the world that you would never have met in person.
Yeah.
You could easily, comment on their post or DM them and, have conversations with people to see what their interest level is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So things like that are happening all the time now.
Yes, I'm communicating with 10 different women, but it doesn't mean a thing.
And now it's to the next level where you have apps like Snapchat or even common apps like Instagram, which have vanish mode. So you can talk to somebody and that conversation essentially gets deleted from the ether as if it never existed.
Deleted from the ether, I like that a lot. As if it never existed,
Yeah.
And then there's all sorts of porn stuff that can go on.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. And now you have things like OnlyFans and stuff like that where you can message those people and stuff like that. It's gotten a lot more intricate over the years, where it's not you're not even just watching a video anymore. If you want, you could do like video chatting with people live and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's like everything now.
Yeah, and you can decide for yourself what is crossing the line in your relationship. But I find that not many couples have those discussions.
That's true.
So you just kind of go through life and go through your relationship assuming what your partner will and won't be okay with until you cross a line.
The only thing I will say is, I mean, people shouldn't have to give up any of their former relationships to be with someone. I mean, if you have friends on the computer that you want to keep, that should be negotiable. Any secret keeping is destructive. Okay? If you have a real partner, now you're not ever going to bare your entire soul, but any kind of secret keeping, things that go on in your daily life you don't want your partner to know, those are risky, I think. You know, secrets aren't good. So that's quite the dynamite question, isn't it? All right. Do you and your partner have good opinions of each other without having an overinflated positive view? You know, I think my partner's wonderful because he or she is my partner. But do you really respect your partner? Do you have a good opinion of your partner? Is this a nice person in the universe? You know, in the world? What do other people think? But do I have a high opinion of my partner?
I think this is important because a lot of times it dictates how you treat them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
If you're a good and respect-worthy person for me, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Respect has a lot
And
to
if
do
you
with it.
don't feel like that toward your partner, I think, as Coach Victoria wisely points out, you're not going to be sufficiently respectful. Yeah. Do your close friends, as well as your partner's close friends, think you have a relationship that will stand the test of time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does everybody else think? They must tell you their opinion.
Yep.
At least from time to time, give you feedback.
And I think most of the younger people, anyway, that we talk to do have a friend group who do have things to say about partners. And, you know, even if you don't agree with what they're saying, sometimes it's wise to listen. Yeah. Any further thoughts?
I'm thinking if you have mutual friends with somebody that you're dating or somebody that you're considering dating, and you hear news from those mutual friends that they were involved in something that would be a deal breaker for you, that, you know, if it comes down the grapevine, a lot of times with your rose-colored glasses, you might just push that out and ignore it.
Yeah.
When you should be taking it into consideration. Of course, you know, you want to be able to make your own decisions, but...
Yeah, getting information about somebody that you're dating that may shock you or surprise you that can be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Well, you have to talk to them about it seems to me.
Yeah.
You know, I got this information, and I remember working with adolescents, as I have for many years. The minute somebody would be dating in middle school or high school, there'd be 14,000 rumors about awful things each of them did, you know? So you really have to be careful about that kind of thing, but you've got to trust your partner if you want to stay in the relationship. And some partners, if they're serious enough with you, will own whatever they may have done.
Yeah.
All right? Is your relationship free of red flags like cheating, jealousy, and controlling behavior? Cheating. Cheating is much more complicated these days than it was when I was young. You can cheat on the computer. You can cheat with porn, apparently.
Some people.
Yeah. So there are all different kinds of cheating. There's jealousy. Where have you been? Who have you talked to? Who did you spend the afternoon with? It doesn't sound like you were at work. All right, there are all those things. Cheating, jealousy, controlling behavior. Let's talk about controlling behavior.
I like that those are separate because I think it's quite normal to feel jealousy in relationships. It's more about what you do with it.
Yeah, that's important. And when people are jealous, they often become controlling.
Absolutely.
And now they're afraid of losing you, so they think that, you know, being controlling over you will keep you closer and less at risk to leave, but it actually does the opposite. And they're going to be more likely to leave because you have been controlling.
And I've heard people say, well, I tend to be the jealous kind, and I've heard both both women and men say that, like it's okay.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
You know, if you're that insecure about the relationship, there's going to be trouble. One of the other things we've heard quite frequently is that if there's been any kind of a cheating incident, sometimes couples can't drop it, or sometimes one member of the couple cannot drop it and go back to it every time they're angry. Remember the time you did X, Y, and Z with X, Y, and Z, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have to really think about that. Because if things happen and something happens around jealousy or cheating, you either have to work through it or drop it, but you can't stay in the relationship and keep bringing it up.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a huge one, yeah. And there's an enormous amount of jealousy out there. There are many people who seem to have a difficult time trusting. And I think the computer has complicated that.
Absolutely.
Because you can hide so much of your activity.
Yep.
Number 12. Do you and your partner share the same values when it comes to politics, religion, the importance of marriage, the desire to have kids or not, and how to parent? Those are huge. Okay?
Yeah, that's going to affect daily living right there.
Yeah.
I had a case just recently where politics, I think, was going to end the relationship, although both partners wanted to fix it. I think their differences were so profound that they probably weren't going to be able to do it. Okay? Religion can be extremely tricky, particularly if somebody comes from a particularly religious family. Okay?
I think respect is a huge part of this one.
Yes. Yes. Say more.
Oh, I was going to say, I had a friend recently who was telling me about a previous relationship and how it didn't work out because of their beliefs, but it was the way that he talked about their differing beliefs. He said, oh, she'll grow out of it. I know in the future, she'll think differently. And from that comment, I took away that he didn't respect her beliefs, even if they, were different. He wasn't able to say they might not change, and that's okay.
It was kind of belittling.
Yeah.
And that's what I like the way you said that. I've had several cases like that. Or people can get terrible pressure from a family of origin around, you have to stay with all of the religious beliefs that we brought you up with, and if you don't, you will be damned forever at least. And so that can be a huge issue. Religion, politics. I worked with a couple one time, and he was a Democrat and she was a Republican, and each of them were adamant, and I always wondered if they made it. The importance of marriage. I don't believe in marriage. It's just a piece of paper. Why can't we just be together forever? Right?
Some people, that's okay. Some people, it's extremely important.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be a religious issue as well. The desire to have children or not. And
That's a huge deal breaker.
That's a huge deal breaker. You want to have children? I do not. And I think, again, lots of times people get married thinking, oh, he or she will come around.
Yep.
And no, they don't, or you have a child and you resent it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how to parent, that can be a huge bone of contention also. I tend to be lenient, you tend to be strict. How are we going to resolve this? Should we read some books together? What are the best ways to parent? Because if you want to mess up a kid, the best, fastest way to do it is to disagree with each other. And there's no kid on earth who won't misuse that.
Oh, yeah. The second they get the opportunity.
The second they get the opportunity, they will use that, because that's just how kids are. Doesn't mean they're bad. But parents on the same page. Most of and I don't even want to tell you how many years, when I've seen families in trouble, it's because the parents are not on the same page.
Yeah, it can be a big issue.
Oh, it can be a huge issue. Mom sets limits, but Dad doesn't, so let's go to Dad with this one. Yeah. Okay, that was number 12. Number 13. Are you and your partner willing to sacrifice your own needs, desires, and goals for each other without being a doormat, in parentheses? In other words, are you ready to make some major sacrifices to make sure that your partner's needs and goals get met as well.
Okay.
Moving across, you talk about long-term relationship, long-distance relationships, that can be huge. You know, I'm established at my job in Texas, you live somewhere in Canada, what are we gonna do?
Yep, somebody's got to sacrifice.
Somebody's got to make the sacrifice. And if you do make the sacrifice, is the other person really going to, you know, appreciate it?
I had a call recently with somebody that moved from North America to Europe to be with a guy, and then he was having some issues with his sister. She was having some health problems, and he wanted her to go to see the family, but she had health issues, so she couldn't travel because of COVID. And he was like angry at her and saying, well, you know, if I have to choose between you and family, family comes first. And she was like, I didn't ask him to choose or anything like that. And here he is saying something like that to me when I just picked up and moved across the world to be with him.
Yeah.
And I said to her, you know, you would think that if you picked up and moved across the world to be with somebody, they would consider you family.
Yeah.
Well, that was already an underlying issue, it would seem to me, that if he was going to choose his family of origin over a partner, we've all heard that one before, and it can destroy relationships. Wow, what a difficult position for her. She's just moved across the world, and you say, well, you don't love me enough because you didn't go see my family and risk my health and risk your health.
Yeah, and she couldn't because of COVID, and she had legitimate health issues that she doesn't want to travel or take that risk right now.
And I think with this question, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like there is a gendered aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Where a lot of times it's the woman who compromises for the man's success. Or if the woman becomes more successful, the man might have difficulty with that. So I think it's important to consider those dynamics in it as well, at least for heterosexual couples.
That's how it's been traditionally.
Yeah.
Right. I think some of that is changing now, and thank heaven. And of course, it depends on the adulthood of each partner.
Yeah.
Real grown-ups, I'm sure, find a way to hash it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Question 14. Do you and your partner both have agreeable and emotionally stable personalities? Agreeableness, there are several lists of traits that people like, and agreeableness is taken quite seriously in many quarters.
I disagree.
Me too, just for the sake of it, because I want to be disagreeable.
I agree with that.
So are both of you stable? I mean, if one of you goes off the handle every 10 minutes, that's probably not really good. If one of you gets hurt and bursts into tears on the alternate 10 minutes, that's not good either. If somebody loves you today but not tomorrow, probably not promising. So I think you can see what they mean. Are both people reasonably stable and reasonably agreeable?
Yeah.
I mean, I like to fight for the sake of fighting, you jerk.
I disagree with that.
You're way too polite. This is no fun.
That I agree with.
I think there's a point in that, though, where somebody can be over agreeable.
Oh, yes.
And almost codependent, maybe even to
Or
a
doormatty.
degree.
Yeah. Doormatty.
That is a big
yeah.
turnoff when
Yeah.
somebody's like
Yes,
too
sure it is.
agreeable.
Yeah. No, I want to know
I
what
like to
you
switch
want.
it up.
Yeah, right? And emotionally stable. I mean, if you're living with somebody who's bipolar, if you're living with someone who has borderline personality disorder, then, you know, you have to make a very careful assessment of how you're going to live with that. And if you feel that you can, and if this person is willing to get help and all that sort of thing. But reasonably stable, meaning you can live a kind of a normal daily life, which means you sleep at night and eat meals during the day at least a couple of times. You have to take that into major consideration. And I've heard people say, I'm going to marry her or him, even though he's bipolar and doesn't take the medication. I hate to tell you what to do, but don't. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last one?
Are you and your partner sexually compatible? And that's, of course, a big one.
Yep.
You know, not everybody has matching needs of how much togetherness they want, how much sex they want. People have, you know, different preferences for distance and closeness and all those things.
You have to be able to compromise.
You also have to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. A lot of times the topic of sex might be avoided just because it's awkward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if these things, do affect you, you want to be able to talk about them.
Yeah. Because you're not likely going to find somebody who wants the same amount of intimacy as often as you do. And, when you become exclusive with somebody, that means something that you have to negotiate.
You have to negotiate. You have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
A lot of good questions there to
This
think
will
about.
keep you thinking for a while.
Yeah. Hopefully you like this one. Let us know. Leave the comments, and maybe you have some good questions that you think should be added to that
I was
list.
going to say, we can go back to any of these issues if you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to get our help personally, you can go to my website, askcraig.net, and sign up for the coaching option that works best for you. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Of course, Margaret is available for Skype coaching.
If you feel that I can be helpful, please sign up.
Just click on Margaret on the top of the website to do that. And Coach Victoria will continue to train with us.
I'll be here.
But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth,
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
and we will talk with you soon. To get my help personally, go to askcraig.net and click on Schedule Coaching and choose the option that works best for you. I do email coaching or Skype. To schedule a coaching with Margaret, click on Margaret on the top of the page and order a Skype with her. For the Knowledge Creative Healing course, click on the link at the top of the page and click Get Started Now.